We're earning over 700,000 per year in dividends, as you can see here, but how can we 10x our growth with Yieldmax? I'm going to give you 5 ways today to compound your money and times 10 your returns again with Yieldmax. Yieldmax and these dividends help us live financially free out of our brokerage accounts, free from a 9-to-5. If you need help doing the same, email me for my e-guides at akintodd48@gmail.com. Or you can check out my website here at unconventionalwealthideas.com. It's linked in my bio. All right, so we're talking about, again, 10xing our returns with Yieldmax. And as you know, I started my account here at YouTube. It was about a $100,000 account, between $100,000 and $300,000. And now we're over 1.3 million. Okay, well, obviously I've gotten loans, so I've gotten about 350,000 worth of loans. I just got a loan, as my members and I were discussing in the last video. If you want to know how I'm getting these returns, how I'm getting these loans, head over to that section in YouTube. So how can we 10x our returns? Okay, minus loans. Okay, with the exception of loans, which I think are always welcome. When you have these dividends, you can qualify for loans, all right, in any capacity, whether it's a personal loan, a business loan. So again, if you need more help with that, call me, because when you buy my e-guides, you get my phone number. I'll coach you on how I got my loans, or head over to the membership section on YouTube. So here's our margin debt here. It was closer to 500,000, but I got this loan. So we've brought our debt down by about 100,000. And I've brought my account up by 100,000. So my account's growing from 1.2 to 1.3. This week we had 15,000 worth of gains on Monday, and on Tuesday we're up another 10 to 15. What it's about is beating the indexes. Okay, so 0.18, and if you look above, that's beating the Dow, which is at 0.17. And if you factor back in my margin, then we're really beating the indexes. So today also we're down a little bit because we have our ex-dividend dates on Thursday. All right, so I have these 5 strategies for you on how to 10x your returns with Yieldmax, and I'm really excited about it, okay? Because I mean, this is I have the notes for y'all here, and this math is a surefire way to get these 10x. I mean, I did the math. Like, this technique right here will give you 3 times, okay? Which we'll start with on the triple C's. All right, so the triple C's, everyone knows that's what I've been doing to get most of my returns here, okay? I use UPRO and TQQ and many others that are in my Volume 7 e-guide. You can also just Google, leveraged ETFs, and you can see a whole list of them there. But I don't put all of them in my e-guide, Volume 7, because, some of them decay, and also you have to use these triples properly, okay? So there's a sweet spot on using Yieldmax and using all the other funds that we use with these triples, and that's, again, all in Volume 7. We outperformed in a down market, even with 400,000 of leverage on that I had during the crash, okay, of this year, okay, that with the tariff wars, we still outperformed the NASDAQ because we knew how to deleverage, and I put all that in Volume 7. So with the triples, right off the bat, you're going to get times 3, all right? Whatever the index does, if the S&P, you have 100,000 in the S&P, it goes up, 100%, which it's done many times. It did that twice, 2 to 3 times in the last 10 years, if you go to a Morningstar chart of the triples, okay? UPRO, just go check it out yourself. UPRO, TQQ. I already made a video, if you want to go see my past videos, how these made you $1 million with only 10,000 invested over 10 years, because the market doubled twice. So if the market doubles twice in 10 years, the S&P and the NASDAQ doubled a little over 3 times. If they double twice, well then, if they double once, you're getting times 3. So if they double twice, you're getting times 6. All right, so of course you're going to really 10x your money when you use triples, okay? Especially if you put more money in triples, but there's a sweet spot to use without having the risk, in my opinion. And there's ways to use the triples in a down market, okay? Not only to get short exposure, but to also delever, like I was saying, knowing how to delever and go into these triples. And so we really honed that strategy during the recent crash, and that's how we outperformed, okay? And I had to write an e-guide about it. Every time I have things that work for me, like Cornerstone, like options, how I sell my options, I had to go ahead and write an e-guide about it because it is my life and I get so many questions on it. And so you combine the triples with Cornerstone, okay, because you're going to automatically 3 times with the triples, all right? So I already laid that out. And then Cornerstone, of course, you're going to times 2 your money over the course of 5 years, because a 20% dividend in Cornerstone, 20%, 21% at its NAV, you're going to, just do times 5 years. You're going to double your money that way. But if you play Cornerstone properly around the rights offerings, which we did, because again, when you buy my e-guides, you get Discord access for free. And Discord is so great because it alerts you of the Cornerstone rights offering announcement. And that's how we're really leveling up. It's, with the triple C's, of course, but then it's, the triples. And everyone always asks, what are the triples? I just laid them out. But also the C's, okay? That's how I really leveled up from 15,000 to 100,000 after the Corona crash, and then got my account eventually up to $1 million because of using all this margin, which is another point that I'll get to in 1 second, to 10x your money. We have a Canadian channel here. We have a Yieldmax, Roundhill, Granite Shares, and then we have one of the more popular channels, How to Fire Lifestyle, where we talk about how to get loans and things like that. We have a crypto channel, an alternative anchors channel, but here's the discussion only channel and the announcement channel for Cornerstone. All right, so we got these alerts and we sold out here at the highs, okay, right here at these perfect levels, okay, because if you buy my Volume 4 e-guide, you'll understand how to play these around the proper premium thresholds, or you can just wait on the Discord alert. All right, so that's how we really got ahead, was selling out here when the market was falling and then rebuying after the rights offering was finished. Again, if you need help playing Cornerstone, that's in my Volume 4 e-guide. So I just discussed one way to 10x your money, okay? These dividends that we're getting, that's just one way as well, okay? We have margin, we have these inflated dividends from Yieldmax, and all these premiums that we're receiving. They have such high volatility. We can get these reliable dividends, especially in an up market. And when you use a little bit of margin, like I'm using, this over 400,000 of margin debt, well then of course we're going to snowball our income because we have so much in dividends already from our $1 million account. Then you use this leverage of of 400,000, so it makes it 1.4 total invested. Well then those dividends, they pay back my margin debt in less than 1 year, okay? And then I'm left with all this cash. I'll be left with 350,000 in cash at the end of the year. My account will grow by the equivalent amount. And so the dividends they keep growing because we keep reinvesting. And then, especially on market dips, and then they pay down our margins so fast, we grow that way. So it's almost like having another account work with you. Hang on, let me get Navy here. She's really comfy here. Navy, her name is Navy because she has navy blue eyes, okay? And also, the nav drip for Cornerstone, how can we, leave that out? I had to, make that phrase coin somewhere. The nav drip, I want to get merchandise, some shirts for it, but also Navy, okay? That's her name. All right, she's short for that. And she's snoring a lot, so I just wanted to kind of get her to relax a little. Jeez. All right, so I discussed one way to 10x your dividends, okay, your returns. It's with the triples, okay, and then it's the C's with Cornerstone, all right, and we also get our compounding from Cornerstone, which is the fifth point I want to make. That's this, so we have triples, we have the C's, we have margin, we have these inflated dividends, from Yieldmax that are snowballing our account to where we make such big dividends, they pay on our margins so fast. Okay, so we'll call it 4. And then 5, we have compounding, okay, because you can compound your wealth easier with Cornerstone because you put so much in it. That's why I put so much in my portfolio with Cornerstone, because it's a 4-star rated fund, and it's been around since the 80s, so I feel comfortable being in Cornerstone, 4-star rated, as you can see here, and it's one of the largest closed-end funds in the world, if not the largest closed-end fund in the world. You can see that on a real chart, it moves up or left or right. So that's why I feel comfortable putting all my money in it, because it is the index, all right? You put your money in the indexes, and then you 10x that, because the indexes can double. The NASDAQ can triple over 10 years. The S&P can double over 10 years. Look, with 10,000 invested, you made 34,000, 42 if you want to just count this little peak here. And in the last chart you saw last year, in the charts from a year ago, you saw that 10,000 made you about 45,000. And so 10,000 to 20,000, to 40,000, that's a 2x right there, okay? So again, you have Cornerstone, and then especially if you play it properly around the rights offerings. And then you have the triples, all right, which is an automatic 3 times. And then you have these dividends, and you have margin to get more dividends, all right? And margin is just a godsend because it's low interest. I've negotiated my rates down twice. Many of my members did the same thing. Even if they failed at first, and they eventually got them down thanks to the script that I have. Text me if you need that script. And So it's cheaper. It's the rates of margin debt are lower than credit card rates for us. It doesn't show up on a credit check to banks. You don't have to have any experience to get margin. You automatically qualify for it. 4 times in your account, you get times 4 with margin. For every $1 you put in your account, you get $4 of purchasing power, as I always say, okay? But I'm not at 4 million because I've invested so much. It's automatic. When you have 25,000 in E-Trade, you get times 4, all right? And a lot of people always ask me, how do I get the times 4? Just qualify for PDT status, okay? Or call me if you need help qualifying for PDT status. It's very easy. Just make 4 round-trip trades. Go Google that. Google round-trip trades. All right, and so then you have another method, okay, to grow your returns with Yieldmax, all right? Let's just talk about Yieldmax specifically, okay? We've been coining this new strategy, the Superb 10, okay? The Superb 10 Yieldmax strategy. If you haven't seen that or heard about that, go see my last video. But we're also taking the top 10 names from Yieldmax, from the indexes, okay, the S&P and the NASDAQ. We're taking the top 10 names here, and we're using the Yieldmax synthetics to get more income and growth out of our account. And then we're using YieldBoost and those leveraged stocks, those leveraged Mag 7 stocks and Superb 10 stocks that YieldBoost allows you to have. I'm using them to get more compounded growth because we already talked about the triple C's and how they grow, and then you get the double leveraged stocks. Of course, you're going to grow, but make sure you manage your position sizes accordingly. Follow my portfolio in the membership section on YouTube if you want to see how I use my allocations with these funds. But this is how we're getting, pretty good days gains. Every day we've been blowing away the market. That's why, again, we're up 10% for the year. I don't even know if I showed y'all that at the beginning of this video. Okay, we're up 10%. For the year. The S&P is flat. The NASDAQ is -1. So the Russell's down 5%. All right, we're up 10%, double digits for the year because we are using the triple C's properly. After this downturn, we really went heavy into the triple C's, and we're using Yieldmax. And now these new Mag 7 names, Superb 10, as I called it in the last video, to get even more growth, more compounded growth. They were on a tear recently. Tesla's been up like crazy. Google's been up. I've been recommending these plays. Amazon's been up. I've been pounding the table on these plays. And again, now we're up 10% for the year. All right, I can't stress that enough. And so we're up 10%. The market's flat. I mean, just extrapolate that out. If the market was up 30%, we're up 10 times what the market is right now. Just put it that way, okay? We're up 10x of what the market is up. Market's flat, we're up 10%. All right. So I just go by returns. I go by percent returns. Even though I have loans and I put loans in my account, for example, it's harder to move the needle now and get growth when I put loans in. So to be up 10% with loans is actually quite phenomenal. It's because I'm getting so much growth through my capital gains, through the triple C's, which again is volume 7 if you're just now joining late. Then we're doing the Superb 10, which I just did a video on last video if you want to check that out. That's the twist that we're adding to volume 7. That's also how we're getting this growth. And then we have compounding from Cornerstone. We have compounding from the triples. You can't really compound with Yieldmax. But what we can do is we can use our margin with Yieldmax and get even more dividends, which then grow our account that way, and they double up our account that way. Okay, it's like another double when you have 0.5 of margin leverage like I was using for most of my investing career with margin. I've always used, as much as I could. But again, there's safer ways to start out and use margin. That's all in volume 3 if you need help using margin just to begin with. And then we also sell these puts. Look at how much we're up on our sold puts now, okay? We're up pretty massive in these sold puts. BetX, 4,600, 6,000 on these. But I never look at the total gains. I don't care about the total gains or the total losses in these, okay? I'm going for the total premiums that I received, which lowered my margin by about 50K. All right, well, right here, this is 60K between these 3 alone, roughly, these 4. BitX, Soxwell, BitX. I lowered my margin by 60,000. That lowered my margin interest. That gave us more performance. We're at 43%, and we just sell time on these sold puts. All right, these are like the safest ways. These are the safest ways to not only play Bitcoin, but to play anything. That's why Warren Buffett sells puts on Coca-Cola. If you need help selling puts like me, that's in volume 6. So that's how I'm getting another guaranteed. I can set my returns with these. I can set 20% returns if I want with something like a UPro, because we receive these premiums in 10,000 because this is 75 strike, right? 7,500. If this was 100 strike, 100 put strike, that would be 10,000. We got 2,000 off of it, let's say, for rounding purposes. That's 20% that we're setting for ourselves with the index UPRO itself. All right. And that makes sense because the S&P averages 7% per year or so, and this is a triple, so you're getting the average times 3 when you sell these puts and you set your 20% gain for the year. I also set 50% gains for the year when I sell my BidX puts and extremely conservative strike prices here, so that I never have worry of assignment risk. And I do want assignment because then we make capital gains on the long side if we got assigned to the lows, and we get big dividends from BidX. And then we really compound our gains to the upside and help add another facet to the 10x strategy. All right. Again, selling puts is all in my volume 6 e-guide. It's really how I get extra outperformance. This isn't necessary to live financially free out of your brokerage account and live the FIRE lifestyle, which is what we always talk about at my channel. This isn't necessary for that. This is more so about just getting extra performance and having your portfolio run on autopilot so that it's buying the dips for you at the lows. All right. And then obviously you can sell out of these things anytime you want at the highs. I've already been doing that for members. Also, Cornerstone drips you at the lows. It has that 20% dividend, and it drips that 20% dividend down at the NAV for 18% gains every month. So when the market's falling, you're dripping Cornerstone at the bottom of the market because it is the index. No other fund does that. No other fund drips at NAV like Cornerstone does. That is completely indexed like Cornerstone is. So you drip Yieldmax on the dips, by the way, that's like point number 6. If you take the dips and Yieldmax and you drip those, you get extra performance along with the performance you get from Cornerstone on the dips that you drip. Okay, you're getting extra performance that way as well. All right, in addition to those sold puts. So that's like 6 ways to 10x your account. Okay, and I didn't really even mention pushing it with margin or pushing it with loans. And loans are so easy because these dividends help you qualify for loans. All right, I've had many members qualify for loans, much bigger than mine because they have W-2, proof. They work jobs, most of them, and so they can use that W-2 employee form to open up their world with loans. And again, we talk about that all in the membership section in my YouTube members only videos. All right, so that's the way to 10x your returns with Yieldmax. Okay, I already gave you the Superb 10 and other little nuances with Yieldmax in this video, as well as how to use the triple C's, Cornerstone, and all these other vehicles, sold options to 10x your returns. And they've really helped me not only outperform the market, we're up 10% for the year, but they help me live financially free from a 9 to 5. If you need help doing the same, email me for my e-guides at akintodd48@gmail.com or head over to my website, unconventionalwealthideas.com. All right, let me get to the members' questions here. If this is too long, I'll edit this out once again. But let me just say hi to everyone. Hey, Danny, welcome. Thanks for joining the fire service. All right, I think you're going to enjoy it, Danny. Those videos are always up, so you can watch them at any time, even how I got through the crash, Danny, so go check those out. Hey, Marcos. All right, let's go. Yeah, Marcos Mello, everyone. That's the channel. That's the guy behind the channel that he does with his high yield dividend investing. We just did a podcast on Misty and MSII, really laying out the nitty gritty of those two funds and MST. So go check out his channel and that podcast we did if you want to know how to use Bitcoin and all these vehicles together. I had a great time with you, Marcos. Mercy received. Let's stick with Yieldmax and forget that Cornerstone junk. That fund sucks. Yeah. Well, hey, welcome, Mercy. Glad you can make it to the show, and thanks for your comment. Well, when you look at Cornerstone, you saw the returns that I showed you on Morningstar. And they're, in line with the indexes. And in my experience, I've blown away the indexes with Cornerstone just because I use margin. And when you time it around the rights offering, you really level up. And that's the key with it, Mercy. And also it pays you in a downturn. It pays your bills in a downturn. SPY doesn't. Yieldmax will cut their dividends in a downturn. Yieldmax doesn't compound. Yieldmax has 50% maintenance, which I didn't even talk about in this video. The triple C's, they have maintenance issues, obviously, but Yieldmax has the highest maintenance. Okay, YMAX has 50% maintenance, so it sucks up a lot of your equity. Again, maintenance is in my volume 3 e-guide if you need help with maintenance. And Cornerstone has 30% maintenance. And other brokers can have lower maintenance for Yieldmax, but they don't have that special drip for Cornerstone. And you don't want to just buy a lot of Yieldmax just because the maintenance is low. All right. Now you can, if you do it right, you can still get ahead and do really well, like, you know, members like Tiger have done in my lives, as you saw by Tiger's comment. He's a big fan of Yieldmax. And I love Yieldmax too, but we have to grow. Are you going to get your compounding growth from Yieldmax, Mercy? I don't think so. You're only going to get it from the triple C's. Okay, so anyway, let me know what you think about that, Mercy. I really wish you could respond to that. Hey, Henry, hola. Selling and buying, those are tax events. Yes, that's why we don't like to sell ever. Okay, if we can help it, we don't want to ever sell. But when you sell Cornerstone, it makes a lot of sense because you get to pocket, sometimes you get to pocket 50% gains, 50% premiums, and you know, you get all those share gains. You know, we went from 7 to 14 in Cornerstone, pocketed all those gains, and then reloaded after the rights offering. So, you know, we had to pay some taxes for that, but it was better than taking all that pain up front. And we really grew later on. And I don't ever mind paying taxes, Henry, because I just space out my taxes, okay, and let my payments be staggered out into the future. And they never even bother me with these huge dividends, Henry. So I never, ever, ever worry about taxes. And again, a lot of these funds are return of capital, tax-free, like Cornerstone, like Yieldmax. So I never worry. We try not to sell unless it's for the rights offering. And when we do sell, we sell from things that we delever from that don't have a lot of income, that we don't have too much of gains in. So it's never really a huge taxable event for us. In fact, when we sell, it's just a tax loss harvesting event. It helps us offset our taxes. Henry. Gabe, a lot of knowledge getting spilled here. Thank you, Gabe. You're welcome. Silverliner, the only thing Yieldmax is good for is buying more Cornerstone funds. I appreciate that comment, Silverliner. Yeah, that's what I do too. You know, more shares of Cornerstone, more tiny houses with 20% yields each, dripping those at the NAV with compounding ability, with the rights offering perk at the end of it all. It's the best way to amass wealth, in my opinion. Hey, Jetta, Cornerstone's a great fund, up 40% on them. Yep, that's the anchor. Yeah, we're up. We've doubled in Cornerstone 2 to 3 times over almost in our accounts with Cornerstone. Thanks to 2021's performance, thanks to how we did in 2023, and then thanks to the dividends that we've gotten over the past 5 years. Hey, Michael, so good to see you. Thank you, Henry, for that tip. Okay, I just appreciate, you know, the gesture there. Okay, I really appreciate you, Henry. I love you all so much, and I'll see you on the next live, okay? Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.